It's amazing what happens when you figure out technology. That's all I'm going to say. Or you have others figure out technology for you is probably more accurate. John here, Jared there. Greetings from both Austin, Texas for day number 2 and from SDHHQ in Atlanta. So yesterday, Jared, I know this will surprise you, and I guess once again. So let's go ahead and make this opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com, and thanks to everybody who uses the code SoccerDownHere15 when you go to Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com, and you get your elements and pieces and parts of everything going on with Kickoff Coffee, and they in turn take 10% reinvested into the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So, of course, yesterday, all right, and it goes back to getting a new hard drive for the laptop and trying to figure out the new computer, which basically this is, with the new hard drive in it. And you lose all your bookmarks, you lose all of your saved data, you lose all of your passwords, or at least remembering the passwords, this kind of stuff. And so trying to figure out how to wander into the studio here and get everything squared away, it was a virtual impossibility. And I know that shocks a lot of you. So morning, Alex. Good. Have a big first interview later today. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Yes, fingers are crossed. But yeah, so it was me and basically a new computer, which is basically what this is, trying to navigate and get into the show. And that's the show was what it was yesterday. And so a show happened. There were thousands of shows out there yesterday, and yesterday's SDH was one of them. And it took a couple of emails with Jason and go, okay, what did I do wrong? Translation, what did I do normally to make sure that I couldn't access what I was supposed to access? But now we have, and so this is why we're here. And magically, it's amazing what happens when you follow instructions and you wander in. So this is the normal circumstances, Jared. You didn't you missed a little bit, but you didn't miss a whole lot. And I know it surprises you, me and my acumen with computers.
We're fine. We're still alive, right? Nothing blew up. Nothing actually blew up.
No.
Because then I'm very interested.
Yeah, that would have made for an interesting visual, kind of like the folks who are about 2 blocks over as I'm staring here from a very high point here at the hotel in Austin, Texas. And there are folks with ropes on a roof, and it looks like they're trying to clean the roof off, but they do not appear to be tethered to the roof itself. So it might just be my eyesight, but there's some very brave folks that are on rooftops that are cleaning them this morning here in Austin, Texas, and they don't seem to be tethered. But yeah, that's just, like I said, that's just me. But so that's your opening kickoff. John's an idiot, so nothing else is new. Once again, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And once again, use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. Thanks to everyone who does. Thanks to everyone who has. Thanks to everyone who will be. And they, in turn, take 10% reinvested into the youth game. Our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. When I sent out the notice this morning about the show, Jarrett, I themed it where we would be discussing desperation. No, not desperado, not Eagles tunes, unless that turns into a part of the discussion, but desperation. And you end up with a situation that we have at Leeds, and it's not the only one, but it's the leader in the clubhouse, where this morning we got news on a couple different fronts. And the first part was where it appears that Victor Orta is out. He's left the club. Leeds confirms that he left the club by mutual consent as their director of sport. Andrea Radrizzani, quote, "Deeply saddened by the way that this chapter closes, as Victor has been responsible for some of the best moments of my time as the owner of Leeds United, and I thank him and his people for all they have done in the past 6 years. However, It is clear that it is time to change direction, and therefore we have agreed that Victor will leave the club. I understand supporters are hurt and upset. We'll get into that in a minute. But now is a time for unity. We have 4 cup finals left to play this season, and working together, I believe we can survive. It started with that, and that was, let's see, what about 7 o'clock this morning?
Did it get any better from there?
The answer to that, I believe, is no. It is not heading in that direction. It appears that Javi Gracia, who was brought in after the relieving of Jesse Marsh of his duties, and I know the 7-year-old and some of us probably just giggled at that sentence, but
that's what we do.
Jesse Marsh relieved of his duties. Javi Gracia comes in, and they told Rod Rosani, and remember the 49ers have a part of this ownership group as well. They tell Javi Gracia, look, okay, you're coming in to the end of the season. Don't worry about anything after that. You're here for the remainder of the season, and then probably we'll sort it out after that. Javi Gracia signs on the dotted line. He's like, yeah, fam, we're cool. It now appears that they're not. After a porous defense has emerged, and where basically Javi Gracia plays about 180 degrees philosophically from what Jesse Marsh does, right now, Leeds is one of 4 teams separated by 1 point for one of the 2 relegation spots that we think are that are being chased after. As I think it's safe to say that Southampton, I think we're staring at them going, yeah, we think you're done. It appears that they have now grown tired of Javi Gracia. He won't even make it to the finish line of the season. And the name that is being bandied about to come in and finish the deal with those 4 cup finals that owner Andrea Radrizzani is talking about, Big Sam. Sam Allardyce. Are you bleeping kidding me with this?
No. No.
You're that desperate. You literally are that desperate, Leeds United, that you would bring in Big Sam for a 4-match World Cup window, whatever you want to call it, and have him try to keep you afloat in the Premier League.
Yes.
What you have done, and you know, Jarrett, you know, back me up here, or you know, make fun of me as you wish. But you go from Jesse Marsh, who was kind of an evolution from Marcelo Bielsa philosophically, so it wasn't that much of a stretch to bring him in to take over when Bielsa was like, "Nah, I'm out." You go from Jesse Marsh, and Jesse Marsh is in an entirely different topic here. You go from that to Javi Gracia, who ain't the same as Jesse Marsh. And now you are on the verge of bringing in Sam Allardyce, who ain't Javi Gracia, and he sure as ish is not either Jesse Marsh or Marcelo Bielsa. You have completely degraded your thought pattern basically just for survival here. That's what you're staring at. That is what you are looking at here in bringing in Sam Allardyce. It is basically punt it, kick it long, hoof it, do whatever, and try and survive at this point. Because, I mean, you look at, Sam Allardyce has not been at a club for more than a year since 2015. Year at Sunderland, the cup of coffee he had with the national team, year at Crystal Palace, year at Everton, didn't manage for 2 years, goes to West Brom, and he's there for less than a calendar year. That's what you want to bring in to try to get you over the finish line.
You bringing him in just to try, to get you over the finish line. That's it. You're not, I would assume that if you're Leeds, you're not going to hire him full-time, going into next year. This isn't like Barry Robson, hopping off the table to go take the Aberdeen job and then tearing it up and be like, maybe this will work because it's better than the man we dubbed Aberdeen Crean. who, by the way, might be going to England. Allegedly, there are championship teams that are interested in him. I don't know why. I honestly don't know why. I swear to God, the championship is the weirdest. It might be the weirdest place on earth. But I would assume you're not bringing him in with the expectation of being like a full-time manager. Have I lost my mind?
I don't know.
Because like this is the kind of guy you bring, but this is the kind of guy you bring in to say, "Hey, man, we just need to get across the line, make it happen. Doesn't have to be pretty, doesn't have to be fancy, just get us across the line."
It won't be. I guarantee you
Yeah,
that.
keep us up there with the money.
Uh-huh.
And then, God only knows what they're going to do next year because, yeah, you went from Bielsa, which was fun and insane. Everyone has a good time with Bielsa. It's Bielsa is a wonderful relationship to have. It's not marriage material, but you're going to have a good time. Might break a few laws in the process. You're going to remember it fondly, but it's not one you settle down with. But it's good for your growth.
Yeah.
Jesse Marsh, you tried to settle down with. You had the whirlwind romance, and then it didn't work. And now you have just I want to see how this works because you have built a machine a very specific way. You have built a lawnmower. You are now asking that lawnmower to vacuum your carpets.
Yeah. Yeah. And
you're gonna have to change it in the offseason. You have to overhaul the absolute hell out of this thing in the offseason, or go find someone else who can do that system. I don't know if that means that you go get you go get somebody else from the school, from the energy drink world, but you have to do something.
Yeah. Bam has opened fire with you. Ange to Leeds.
Man, we cool, but we ain't gonna be cool forever.
and
I mean, there was already speculation of we're cool, we're fine. There was already speculation, I think, about Ange to another English team. I forget which one, but
I think it was Chelsea, wasn't it?
I think it was. And don't anybody take the damn Chelsea job right now. Just don't take Chelsea, man. Taking Chelsea is like before Mike Brown made it respectable this year. It was like taking the King's job in the NBA.
Yeah.
Just nothing good is going to come from it. Ricky, it's weird because none of us celebrate Big Sam Day, yet on a different plane, we all do, because there's a sicko in everybody. You just have to find it, and you have to find what's gonna drag it out of you, kicking and screaming.
Yeah, that's what you're staring at. I mean, right now, Leicester and Everton, they had one of the craziest games of the year, and understandably so. I mean, it was a fantastic match. It finished in a 2-2 draw, which I figured it was going to, but I figured that there were going to be 4 less goals scored.
The question mark was unintentional, yet entirely appropriate.
Yes.
Much like Big Sam's appointment.
Yes.
And yes, ma'am, it is Champions League Day.
Yes,
also,
it is.
Also, Brujo's not available for Philadelphia. Jose Martinez is not playing.
Correct.
And CONCACAF, for those of you that don't remember, CONCACAF still adheres to the old laws where away goals count. They matter. And Philadelphia gave up that away goal late. I believe Kelly Costa scored it for LAFC. So, yeah, Philadelphia has to go across the country to LA. They have to win this match outright. Unless they, get like one of those weird, like 2-2, 3-3 psychopath games. Again, Find your inner sicko. He's there. You just have to wake him up, and I can't help you with that. I can just tell you to watch, Stanley Cup playoffs. That works.
Yeah.
I'm so happy, man. The Lightning and the Bruins are out. I can die at peace. Everything else is just whatever. I don't care anymore. Those 2 teams are done. I'm good. But they don't have Jose Martinez, who is an emotional anchor for that team. So, man, Bam, I know you traffic in pessimism a lot. That's okay. A lot of us do as well. It's just a function of the human condition. That being said, I like your chances. If you don't get it done, it's absolutely going to be a failure on the part of LAFC because it is lining up really nicely for them.
Yeah. And Nix mentions and that the run-in for his Foxes is brutal from this point. Fulham, Newcastle, Liverpool. The non-zero Coco. Well, actually, Coco, I think it was in Coco says if we talked about the
violence.
Yeah, the non-0% chance Chelsea gets relegated. Get this. One of the papers, and I want to say it was the Telegraph, actually ran an article about how things could go sideways and Chelsea could get relegated. Literally, I'm not kidding.
I feel like it's one of those things, though, that like 85 things have to break a very specific way, kind of like the 28-3 thing, where like if you go back and look at the Super Bowl, if you would run that Super Bowl simulation 100 times, 99 times Atlanta still would have won because everything had to break the Patriots' way. I feel like that's what we're talking about, though.
Yeah, and so of course now that I remembered that happened, I'm going to see if I can find the article in and of itself.
Well, you do that, Burn. I did see that about the Steve Cherundolo thing. I'm wondering if Cherundolo is more of like a 20-30 kind of guy. He's still young in his career. I like him. I think he'd be an interesting candidate. I also can understand if they have decided, we're going to go with somebody else. Keep doing what you're doing. This also does fly in the face of my dreams of Ange Postecoglou, U.S. national team coach in 2030.
There you go. It exists in
I will stipulate that he does not have to play Socceroos in that because I don't want to wish any harm on Bam's team, and I know how Bam feels about the way Socceroos have done things with their nepotism.
Yes. Jarrett choosing violence on a Tuesday morning. Yes. Hello, darkness, my old friend. And I think it might have been an op-ed piece because I'm staring at.
If you live in the darkness, then you just none of it's darkness if you live in it. Then it just becomes
that is true.
The day.
Yeah. I think it was an op-ed piece. It wasn't an actual news piece that they ran, but yeah, there actually was an article that laid out every possible scenario for Chelsea to get relegated. And I mean, when you think about it, coming into the four matches that are left, I mean, literally Chelsea's at 39 points. So technically, Chelsea is 9 points clear of relegation. Notice we're not having these same conversations about a team like Bournemouth, who's also 9 points clear and has a horrendous goals difference. But folks want to sit there and look at Chelsea and go, okay, how can Chelsea get relegated? Well, first off, obviously, they'd have to lose their last four matches. Then you'd have to have Forest or somebody in that 30 and 29 point group win everything. I think two of the four would have to win out. Chelsea'd have to lose them all, and then you get into math. But it was an article.
You get into math,
of course,
which is the most terrifying thing you could say.
No doubt. I mean, you're looking at. Nick's mentioned the run in for Leicester. And Leeds isn't much better. I mean, right now, Leicester gets Fulham next, and that's Monday Night Football. Leeds, guess what? Big Sam, you want Leeds? You want Leeds, Big Sam? Your first match is one of the 10 o'clocks on Saturday morning against Manchester City. If this happens, and by the way, Nottingham Forest gets a real interesting one against Southampton, and Everton against Brighton. So Nottingham Forest and Southampton gets a lot of subtext. So you want Big Sam. And I know, Coco, it's not as much fun to talk about Bournemouth possibly getting relegated, but Gary O'Neill's done a hell of a job. I don't think they will. So on the idea that Big Sam decides to take this gig, Big Sam and Leeds against Manchester City on Saturday, if this does in fact come to pass.
Oh my God, it would be amazing if for no other reason you just drag the race for the title back into relevancy.
Oh, absolutely.
That's all I want.
I mean, it would be one of the most god-awful, frustrating, and I mean god-awful both in the figurative and the literal sense, for Leeds to survive and to be dragged out of the relegation discussion. This means that you got to come up with at least 4 points in 4 matches, which means that Leeds,
You get 3 of them against Manchester City.
Yeah, and so literally you'd sit there and you're going, okay, for a team that was wide open, pressing, physically fit, all these kinds of things from Bielsa and Jesse Marsh, to being confused all to hell under Javi Gracia, to really sitting there, Big Sam, I can tell you what the meeting's going to be like. I can tell you what the pregame meeting's going to be.
You built a snapper lawnmower. It was a cool snapper lawnmower, maybe not the best one ever made. You built a snapper lawnmower, and then you decided to ask it to, vacuum your carpets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so this match against Manchester City, if Big Sam does in fact come to pass, would be the most god-awful, boring, most fascinating thing we've ever seen. Just because of the subtext that's attached. I mean, literally, it would be 90 minutes of Patrick Bamford and Reuter and everybody just hoofing it, just booting it long. Ball's got cooties. We don't care. We're going to play for 90 minutes, and we're going to drive people crazy. That's what that match is going to be. I mean, they'll foul the ish out of Erling Haaland. They will try to chop Kevin De Bruyne down. That's what you're staring at. Like I said, it would be the most fascinating case study of trying to survive that we would have ever seen. And I never thought I would ever have the words fascinating and Sam Allardyce in the same sentence. If this in fact comes to pass.
I really want a Big Sam episode on Ted Lasso now, where like they've started installing, total football at Richmond, and then they have to go play like, hey, what are we doing this week, guys? Oh, we're playing like Nottingham Forest, and they got Big Sam, but it's not Big Sam. It's like a parallel Big Sam, which. I got a lot of questions about that show right now in general, but you get like a parallel Big Sam, and they have to try and break him down, and they just keep fouling the ever-loving hell out of Jamie Tart.
Mm-hmm.
Like every time Sam Obisanya tries to break down the wing, he just gets ripped down. Make it happen. Just rewrite it and reshoot it inside of 2 days. You guys got this. I have faith in you.
Yeah. Yes. So this is what you're staring at. The science experiment of all of this. Oh my God. And having all of these things coming to pass with a month to go in the season, and just the chaos that could happen. And it's almost like Bizarro chaos. I mean, you remember the Bizarro World sketch on Saturday Night Live back in the I want to say it was in the 80s and 90s?
Nope.
Okay, well, what they would do is they would shoot it in mosaic, and me thirsty, me would like it, and you would have improper English spoken. Tim Kazurinsky, instead of round-headed people, they would have square heads, these kinds of things, and so they would do a Bizarro World with Tim Kazurinsky is mainly the main leader in the sketch. Me thirsty, me would like a nice glass of sand, those kinds of things. That's what you're staring at here. Sam Allardyce. If it comes to pass that he is going to, in fact, try to be the guy on the touchline to keep Leeds from being relegated, it traditionally is one of the most painful things to watch. But in this particular context, it would be a painful thing to watch with a fascinating subtext attached to it. That's how bizarro this is. The world has circled upon itself and is on the verge of eating itself when it comes to soccer in the Premier League. With a situation,
we're not that lucky.
I mean, goodness. And like I said, I mean, and I know that I wanted to get into Leicester and Everton yesterday, and I was going to ask if there had been some commiserating among Ropes and Emilio and Nix and Tom Russo, considering how crazy that match was. And first off, no word yet on Seamus Coleman. It was a nasty injury that he suffered yesterday, second time in 6 years to the same leg. And I give him full credit. Team captain coming off the pitch, and he's trying to get everybody just fired up. I mean, he's probably in an load of pain, and he's on the stretcher being taken off, and he's trying to get everybody fired up, whether they're a teammate or a fan or whatever. He's trying to get them all fired up in that game, and that game was amazing yesterday. 2-2 draw. Did you see how much of the match did you see, highlights, anything like that, Jared? Any at all, or were you actually working?
I was actually working. Okay. I didn't see any of it. The only thing that has entered my mind in the last few minutes, honestly, and we can discuss this afterward, is you know who else could go get Big Sam? Potentially.
Who?
Kansas City.
Oh, true. And
Johnny Russell might just break him in half.
Oh, no doubt. Well, and the other issue with Kansas City and taking this idea of coaches and getting fired and calling your shots. Once again, Johnny Russell, after the match last time with Sporting, he's like, I don't know who we are. I really don't. I'm paraphrasing, but we're not the same group that we were. I don't know what's wrong, and I don't know what's going on. And you're to the point now. It was very sad to see. Yeah, and you're to the point now where you had a front office in Leeds make a decision. Okay, good or bad, they've made a decision, apparently. But now you have a team in Sporting that is just awful. I mean, they're just not good. And you're to the point now where you're last. And I know that we always seem to have the running gag of, okay, do they have as many points as they do red cards? And
goals, not points. Goals. They don't have as many points. It's been goals was my favorite joke about it.
Well, right now, here's what you got in the West. LA, they played 9 matches. They're 1-5-3. They would have 10 matches if El Tráfico, the original, wasn't washed out. Kansas City, 10 matches, no wins. You're almost to the 1/3 point of the season. You're turn 1 at Pocono, and you have no wins. You have 3 draws. You have 7 losses. You have scored 3 goals. As many goals as you have points, as many goals as you have draws. 3 goals scored. 15 allowed in 10 matches. So goal and a half is your average. 0-3-1, 0-4-2. 0-3-1 at home, 0-4-2 on the road. And where you are right now in Kansas City, obviously, you're adrift. I mean, yeah, I know you're like a win away from LAG. You're 2 wins away from Austin and Colorado and all of that. But this is a situation right now with Sporting Kansas City where
those draft picks.
Yeah, they are.
I regret to inform you that it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. No, you're tanking for Tua is what you're doing if you're Sporting. But the question
to inform you, it doesn't work like that here.
Yeah, you get an envelope. We regret to inform you. But the issue here is, when is enough enough? And I know that this seems to be a recurring topic on the show, but I don't think we anticipated Sporting Kansas City to be this bad. And they are. And I think that Peter Vermes has earned the physical capital, whatever terms you want to use.
I'm sorry. Cristiano Ronaldo wants to leave Al Nassr only months after his move to the Saudi club.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
Remember when we were trying to figure out who was the GOAT and who wasn't? Those were fun times. Sorry,
that's an easy one. Peter Vermes, I believe, has earned the right to sit here and call his own shot. It's time for me to go. It's time for me to go. But
he has. But what's the limit, man?
right, that's where we are here. It's when do we get when does Peter Vermes make the decision? It's time for me to go. And I mean, you're in turn one, and you have 3 points because you've drawn 3 of your first 10 matches. I mean, St. Louis, an expansion team, the other end of the state, 19 points. You have 3. 3. 1, 2, 3. 3 goals scored. I mean, obviously, we could sit here and say that you haven't been the same since you let Ilya go to LAFC. But that's only a part.
That, though, man.
I know it's only a part of the thing. And you're like, when is the time? When is the time to hang it up? When is the time? That time is when Peter Vermes decides, but you would hope that understanding the collective here and understanding what needs to be done at Sporting to tear things down and start all over again, it's got to be sooner rather than later, you know?
I'm
just
Nah, man. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. That's the thing, man. I don't know what Russell has left in the bank. If I want anybody from, if I want anybody, if we're gonna pick the carcass of Sporting Kansas City, give me Daniel Shalhoub.
Yes,
I'm a longtime Daniel Shalhoub fan.
Yes,
but yeah, because I don't know what I don't. Yeah, Russell's like 33, 34 now. I think. Russell's been doing it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like how long do you give someone?
Mm-hmm.
How long do you give someone to pull the to pull the trigger?
Yeah. And
that's my question. Sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, I'm right there. No, I'm right there with you. It's like when do you sit there and pull the trigger? That's the thing here, and I think you are dangerously close. I mean, I think that you've 33 turned 33 in April. By the way,
Okay,
Johnny Russell.
Yeah, so Johnny Russell's 33, but man, Johnny Russell's been great. My question is, I don't know how much he has in the tank because everybody ages differently. If Johnny Russell's got something left in the tank, yeah, sure. If he's got something left in the tank, yeah, you gotta do it. I just don't know what he has. We were talking about this yesterday, Bam. I can't remember if you were here yesterday or not. About for Atlanta, figuring out what you're going to do with Luis Araujo, who I love Luis's heart and his drive, but he hasn't been what you need him to be. And if you decide, we're going to go and we're going to cut our losses and see, maybe if that offer, that theoretical offer,
yes,
from a Brazilian team did exist, then you might do it. But how do you fix that? I mean, you might have 2 DP spots to play with if you're Atlanta. It might get really weird.
Yeah, OG is thinking Johnny Russell would be more of a Dom Dwyer type spirit and fight, goal or two in pivotal situations. The inverse.
Yeah, I mean he can be that. I think it's selling Russell short because I think for me it is because he was early on, especially in his tenure at Kansas City. Man, Johnny Russell was it, man. That dude, he was a lot of spirit. He was a lot of spirit and grit and sandpaper. But don't let that take away from the fact that he was an absolute demon putting up numbers when they were really clicking a couple of years ago. It was he and Shalhoub, and when Alan Polito was healthy, like there was the expectation, not exactly the same as Atlanta, but also not radically different, in my opinion. To man, if these 3 can stay healthy, they could be really, really good. And Alan Polito hasn't stayed healthy, and even now that he is healthy, the problems, they run too deep.
Yeah. And I mean, I still wonder what this conversation would be like. with Peter Vermes, because that's the other element in this, is that Peter Vermes is he is A, B, and C. He's the one having the conversation with himself to figure out self. We need to have a talk. Okay, when would you like to schedule an appointment? Well, let me look in my book, self. Peter Vermes is the one handling all of these things. He's handling all of this stuff.
And Emilio, I don't consider it violence with Luis. I wanted Luis to be successful, and he hasn't been. You subbed him off at halftime against Nashville. Last few times you've needed him to be that DP guy, and he hasn't done it. And now it's become to the fact where you wanted it to happen. We talked about this yesterday. I feel like I am going insane. I wanted it to work, and it hasn't. And summer comes around. Yeah, I wanted it to work, and it hasn't. Sometimes look over the horizon. Sometimes you're in a cave and you look and you think you see the light out of the cave, and it's just phosphorus bouncing off of the the water bouncing off the phosphorus, giving the impression of light.
Mm-hmm.
And right now you slid down a cave.
Yeah.
So you're gonna, because I know it's been a talking point with Atlanta, and we'll jump back into Vermes, but you're gonna have decisions to make this summer for sure, especially if Thiago Almada, does go to Europe, which sounds like it's what's going to be happening.
Yeah.
Then it could be a very eventful summer.
Yes.
At Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Yeah. And but I mean, getting back to Vermes, because I know that your time is short. The whole idea of, since Peter Vermes is the guy in front of the desk, the guy sitting staring at the guy behind the desk, and the guy who gets to hand the envelope to the floor. So I mean, it literally is in Sporting Kansas City. It is no, Rich.
Nothing happened to him. We're talking about, how long do you let someone, because Vermes is in charge of himself, really. How long do you let someone who's an institution stay in charge before you step in and help them from saving them from themselves, metaphorically?
Yeah. So that's what you're staring at. No, Bam, Almada will go eventually. It's just a matter of when. And I think that if you're looking at price tags, you're looking at something that starts probably with a high 3 or 4.
It would be nice. It might be. You won't get really weird, Bam. Imagine if you sell him for, you sell him for a little bit less, but you get him back through the end of the season.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. I know some people have hoped against hope that you would do something like that, where you would sell him on. I believe Napoli was linked to him at one point, which would be fun. Napoli, who had the chance to celebrate the Scudetto at home and had it ripped away from them.
Memo Ochoa sighting, sir. Salernitana.
Which is wild, because Memo Ochoa only ever shows up every 4 years. Someone forgot to. Someone left the stable door open and he got out, and now he's in town eating the food, at the farmers market.
Yeah. So that's what you're looking at. There are going to be decisions in the summer, and you've got to figure out. And it's probably. Yeah, now he's keeping Napoli from winning the Scudetto. Exactly. Yes. Not on my watch, says Memo Ochoa. And we all thought that Memo Ochoa to Salernitana, we were like, excuse me, what? And Memo has kept them in the fight. So
Memo is very good.
Kind of like
he's just left the barn door open.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's out. Now Memo's doing stuff outside of the World Cup, and it's weird.
Yes, exactly. And he's not the he's not the only one. But you turn into a pumpkin today, right?
I do.
Okay. Well,
thesis ultimately is I really want I really love what Peter Vermes has been in Kansas City, and
Mhm.
I hope Vermes is able to call time on himself, and I hope he doesn't lose that ability to call time on himself. But at some point, with the way it's going,
Yeah.
it feels like it's going to be soon, and he actually has to do it.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yep. All right. So we'll catch up with you tomorrow.
See you.
Bye. Jared Smith hanging out. So I mean, that's the hook in all of this, where Vermes is concerned. I mean, you are, as we say, you are judge, jury, and executioner here. You really are. And it is up to you. Yes, it is up to you because you have earned that right. But you are last in the West and then some. You got to figure things out. And it's trying to figure out, maybe they're trying to figure out, okay, here's the plan of action, as I go, when I go, here's what we're doing, A, B, C, D, and E. And when they get to that point, then Sporting can make a decision on Peter Vermes, and Peter Vermes can make a decision for Sporting. So we'll see what the ultimate decision is there. But I know that we'll talk about it when Dylan Butler, hopefully, unless he's locked into high school playoffs and things like that. When Dylan comes in tomorrow for his weekly visit, what the thought pattern is here. But yeah, I mean, it's gotten really bad at Sporting Kansas City. And I mean, when you have the post-match comments that are made on camera, on tape, for newscasts. Yeah, I mean, ownership can make the decision, but I mean, but Rich, I think what you want in this case is you want to allow for that ending. You want the succession plan. You want, now, does Peter only surrender coach? Does he surrender everything? Because he is so many moving parts to Sporting Kansas City, you've got to figure out, okay, what do we do at coach? Then if he's removing himself from all aspects of Sporting Kansas City, then what's your plan with the other job titles? And that's the thing here, is that when you get to the ending with Peter Vermes, whenever that is, in whatever form that is, you have to figure out how to replace multiple Peter Vermeses. I guess that's the plural, Vermeses. You've got to figure out how to replace all the different versions of him with different folks, unless you bring in someone who's going to be like that, where it's the head coach and then it's the front office guy. All these different aspects of Peter Vermes, you can't just sit there and bump him out and then try to figure it out later. You've got to figure out, you've got to fill multiple positions on the bingo card and figure out, okay, is it going to be one guy that's going to get absolute control like we did with Peter, or is it going to be one guy who's coach, one guy who's the front office guy, and going from there? That's the big question here. And I'm imagining that the conversations with ownership and with Peter are trying to figure out succession plans on multiple fronts. And I'm guessing that's why we haven't seen anything as of yet. But at the same time, I think that Peter has deserved to call his shot whenever that is. And with Sporting being what Sporting is right now, it's probably sooner rather than later. But this is an interesting dynamic in place in trying to figure out, okay, here's what we do with multiple job titles. And so that's where I think we are with Peter Vermes and all of this. So, yeah, well, and David asking, can he not Pat Riley this and move to technical director or president and just hire a coach? Maybe it's time to give up the only manager on the field. And and this could be part of the play. Is it, does he bump himself upstairs and then you figure out a coach? But in the analysis, is it both the talent on hand that he has helped assemble and probably hung on to too long in some cases, and not being able to keep Ilie, I think, another one. So is the front office Peter Vermes part of the discussion too, in addition to the head coach Peter Vermes? And that's kind of what we're staring at here. How many of the Peter Vermeses would be stepping away in all of this. And yeah, it would make sense for him to step away from being head coach, considering that they're 0-7-3. But is it and this I feel like we're getting into almost chicken and egg stuff here. Is it the assembly of the talent that the front office Peter Vermes did that is contributing to the on the field version of Sporting Kansas City with Peter Vermes? And like I said, I know that I'm kind of splitting job titles here and kind of I'm cloning Peter Vermes and discussing the front office version, and I'm discussing the on the field version. But I think that you have to wonder, okay, can you make a clean break in this case and sit there and go, okay, we kind of need a new philosophy on a bunch of different levels. Is it just the front office Peter Vermes that is in play? Is it the coach Peter Vermes that's in play? Is it both Peter Vermeses that are in play? My gut tells me it's probably going to be all of them, because the talent hasn't. I mean, you made those late additions in the summer window last year, and it took a little while for them to get adjusted and acquainted. And when they did, Sporting made that big run at the end of the year. But what is happening this year with that same talent is where we currently are. And so, like I said, I think that this is the larger question here. How many of the Peter Vermeses are we discussing? My guess is all. So when we get to that point with Sporting Kansas City, which I'm imagining is going to be sooner rather than later, that's where we're staring at. So, yeah, so it's, I mean, it's a lot of stuff to digest. And I wanted to bring in the Peter Vermes discussion in addition to the Leeds discussion because of the larger overarching thought of when is enough enough. And with Sporting, you've got to that point where you're 0-7-3. You're 10 matches in. You're about a third of the way through your schedule, and you're dead last. I mean, you're a dead blanking last right now. Where Leeds was concerned, you're trying to not get relegated. And so how desperate are you in the situation? Apparently vary if you're considering Sam Allardyce to come in to try to get you over the line. And we've got Chelsea playing later today as well. We'll get into juice boxes and matchups and things like that and what you can watch on TV. But the desperation comes from a bunch of different things. And desperation to stay up is leading to circling back to Premier League 1.0. And in Kansas City, OG comes in with the thought, looks like MLS 3.0 and onward has passed Vermes by. He hasn't kept up with how the league has evolved in the last 5 years. And, I mean, I thought that the talent that was brought in by Vermes in the summer window was there, and like I said, it helped. But it only helped last season. I don't know what the disconnect is this year, but like I said, Johnny Russell saying that he doesn't know, what this team is right now. And like I said, I'm paraphrasing from his post-match, where obviously they were frustrated once again. That you're staring at things and you're just going, what is going on here? And I think, OG, I think to your point, I think that it is something where Sporting has been passed. And you look at, and I'm trying to grab the quote. So Johnny Russell, here's the quote. I don't know how you fix it. After losing 2-0 to Montreal. 2-0 to Montreal last time out. Johnny Russell, I don't know how you fix it. I'm going to be completely honest. We just don't look anything like the team we were. I don't know. I genuinely don't know how you fix it. Aaron Ladd was there in the post-match. And apparently the supporters, you could hear them on the parabolic mics at Children's Mercy Manager and sporting director saying he's well aware the winless run will put him under the microscope. And this is from Ari Liljenwall and the article that he posted after the match. I didn't hear them, meaning the crowd. I don't necessarily listen to much that goes on. How do I respond? It's not for me to make that decision about the future. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Longest serving MLS manager since taking over since 2009. Quote, signed a 5-year contract extension back in February through the 2028 MLS season. I think the first day when you enter this business, you always got to know your job is always at stake. Always know that. Never thought differently in any of the time I've been here. I understand it's not good enough. Responsibilities on me, so I get it. We're not playing well. We haven't won a game. We haven't created high-quality chances here in the last couple of games. We've had opportunities in the first, probably like 6 or 7 games I think we were in and around the box quite a bit. Those we weren't finishing. Right now I think a lot of our shots are coming from further out, and we just don't get the numbers in the box at the moment, end quote. And remember, they also lost Willie Agata because of a leg fracture. So last year's leading scorer is out. And so you've got to figure out how you want to address that too. Agata, Eric Tommy, they came in that summer transfer window that we're talking about. Verme says, I'm a person that always thinks it is fixable. You've got to find solutions. Obviously, it's a tough situation we're in, but the only way to do it is you've got to keep working toward it. Right now, none of us deserve to be wearing the jersey, according to Johnny Russell. We need to figure it out. We need to figure it out fast, or this is going to spiral out of control. It's Seattle, in Seattle, on Sunday as the game on Free Apple and Big Fox. I would maintain that it probably already has. But David, so our pro-rel folks see KC in action as something pro-rel would fix or cause action. Leeds pro-rel situation is causing the chaos. It's drama, but does it make soccer better? The media loves the content, but better soccer. Burned. Vermes is a good talent evaluator and squad planner with MLS players within MLS, but once the international scouting became the factor that determined success, he was lost. Bam, I know that when you wake up, you'll be watching your first part of the CCL, the next go-round of the CCL final tonight here. And I know that Nick's is rooting for the Meteor with LAFC in Philadelphia. Yeah, still rooting for the Meteor an hour later. I don't think that's going to change with Knicks. But, yeah, I mean, and that's what you're staring at right now. You are staring at situations in different leagues with different approaches, but desperation. And I don't know if we've hit full desperation in Kansas City yet, but I think that you've hit desperation in Leeds, especially if you're bringing in Big Sam. But when does desperation hit for Kansas City? I think we've hit exasperation. I don't think we've hit desperation, although I would have imagined that you probably have. Like I said, you're in the end of turn 1 at Pocono. You're turning in the turn 1 in the tricky triangle, and you haven't won a match yet. So Peter Vermes believes it's fixable. When you lose your leading scorer from 2022, and he's probably going to be out 8 weeks, that puts you past the halfway point of the season in getting him back, and he may not be back at full song at that point. I think that where Sporting is concerned, I think that it's, I think that it might be, I don't know. I think it might be too late. But obviously with 9 teams making the playoffs in each conference this year, you've got a little bit more wiggle room to do that. But looking at the standings, once again, remember, with 9 teams making the postseason, right now in the West, 8 points out of a playoff spot. 1/3 of the way through the year. Folks above you have a match in hand. You're 8 points out of that last playoff spot. And, Jarrett just made this point. Kansas City could call Cristiano Ronaldo They did it before. But apparently, Cristiano Ronaldo wants to leave Al Nassr. So does 1 plus 1 equal 2 here? Does it? Does it? Does Cristiano Ronaldo? Does that happen? He wants to leave Al Nassr. He's already frustrated. Color me shocked. Mutually agreed to terminate the contract with United after the interview with Piers Morgan. So then he signs a £175 million a year deal with Al Nassr until 2025. Real Madrid are willing to offer him a non-playing role as an ambassador, according to El Nacional. Florentino Perez is guaranteed that Ronaldo will not lack work at the Bernabeu, but obviously he wouldn't do it to be a player, but he considers that it is a cycle that should be considered closed. So, Cristiano Ronaldo, do you chase after it again if you're Sporting Kansas City? Do you really go there? There's the big article about the deep dive. David, I think that one got wiped away. I think that was finally settled, the arrest warrant. But does Sporting Kansas City do it again? Do they go down this same road? Do they try to bring in Cristiano Ronaldo? I mean, yeah, we could sit here and try to figure out 1 plus 1 equaling 2. But do you? Like I said, this literally is the spitballs here. Do you do that? Do you think that's going to fix your problem? Do you? That's the big question. We'll hang an eye on that. Getting close to hour number 2, so that means that we'll cut an abbreviated promo because I forgot to bring my copy with me. I know that shocked you all. So take it out of loop. Take it down to 15. I think 15 is where we've decided that is an acceptable audio level where you can hear me and hear what's going on. We hit rock, and we try to think of a promo off the top of our head. Lemonize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH. For order free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go, and it's there. With a Lemonize Service, once again, it's better than anything that you have when it comes to anything under the sink or above you in the cupboard. It's not a masking agent, because when you reach under the sink or above you in the cupboard, you pull that masking agent out, you spray it in the air. There's a reason they call it a masking agent, because it just masks the odor. It doesn't attack the odor like our friends at a Lemonize Service do with their proven scientific formula. Pricing one of 2 ways to come up with a price that's affordable for you so they can help you attack your problems. It's either by the cubic foot or parts per million. They work with realtors and property managers to make sure that property transitions from one owner to the next without a whole lot of issues. Well done by our friends at a Lemonize Service who have built their business to where it is right now. But what we would like to ask, as they are proud sponsors of everything SDH, when it comes to Lemonize, go to their website to get more information. A very green way of going about things. We like green ways about tackling issues these days. Very, very cool stuff. They work with realtors and property managers, making sure that it is a turnkey process, makes it easier to work with said realtors and property managers. But go to their website. Easiest way for them to help you out. ELIMINIZE.com, but do us a favor after the .com, and this is where I grab my pen, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from so they can help you with your problem. Full homework assignment, ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta, Lemonize.com /Atlanta. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, a Lemonize Service, proud sponsors of everything here at SDH. On the road on a Tuesday in Austin, Texas. Once again, thanks to our friends at Lemonize for helping us out and being the proud sponsors of everything that they are. Hour number 2, we talk Cristiano Ronaldo. We've got Manchester United on the board. We've got stuff from FIFA on the board involving the Women's World Cup. Questions on the board. One of the other things yesterday when we were talking about the match with Leicester and Everton yesterday, and once again, feel free to let me know what you think about this particular idea. Did you see when it came to penalties that Jordan Pickford's water bottle had the prevailing thoughts and the percentages of the players and where they go when it comes to their predispositions when it comes to the penalty kicks? What did you think about that? The fact that it was wrapped around the water bottle. You sit there and you look at whoever the shooter is. You sit there and you look at the water bottle, and it's got the information on that. Is that using equipment that's in front of you to your advantage, meaning making sure that it's on the water bottle and it's stuck to the water bottle first and foremost? I give whatever adhesive that they used to make sure that it's stuck, that it was there. Coco says it's ish housing and you love it. So was it the water? And the thing is that I missed this lead up into it. Was it the water bottle that he had the entire time, or leading into the penalties, was it the one that you see, like, the physio will come out, or they'll come out there and they'll sit there and they'll give water to the players, and you just throw that water bottle over to the keeper so he can keep an eye on it, sit there and read it real quick. You sit there, you take your swig of your Lucozade, you sit there, you look at it, and you go, oh, okay, so it's so-and-so, then he's going to be doing this. So stay 60%, those kinds of things. So I don't know if this was the water bottle he had the entire time or if this was one that was thrown at him just before the penalty was taken. But the fact that they've done this kind of research and laid into it and have folks sit there and go, okay, well, he's going to be doing this, and this. Do you dig this? I know that Coco does. What do you think about having this kind of intel attached to your water bottle, whether you've had it from the absolute beginning or you sit there in that moment of, okay, time for a PK. Hey, Jordan, here's your water bottle. You throw the water bottle over there, and that's what your information is. Do you dig it? Do you not? Is it gamesmanship? Is it ish housing, as Coco says? What's the thought pattern here about having advanced intelligence on your water bottle if you're a keeper? And actually, I'll write that down because tomorrow when Bart Keeler comes on at 10:30 for Reffing Down Here, I want to ask him about that because there are a couple of things when Bart comes on tomorrow. Once again, Dylan Butler coming in tomorrow. And Dylan Butler comes in at 10. Bart comes in at 10:30. I want to ask about Jurgen Klopp and the whole idea about objectivity and when somebody comes up publicly and says what he says. And then, yeah. So, and David, to your point, someone on the bench could be doing hand signals. So the water bottle is fine in David's idea. But also on high school soccer, where and Byrne made this point yesterday, and I want to get Bart's perspective on it. The younger players, where they go in with a high boot, because we were talking about Diogo Jota and going in on Harry Skip's head, and basically planting his cleat right in there and not getting anything, not even a card. I want to find out if what Byrne is saying about the high boot not being called, those kinds of things. I want to get into that, and then info on the water bottle and intel and those kinds of things. So. Bart Keeler coming in 10:30 tomorrow when it comes to Reffing Down Here and anything else that's on his mind. So we've got that coming up tomorrow as well. We mentioned teams in other leagues that are chasing after big teams in other leagues that are chasing to stay out of relegation fights. That's in La Liga. There was a really cool article in The Guardian that we'll get into later on when it comes to that. Also big names in the Bundesliga that are at the bottom of the table. And remember, Bundesliga has relegation, but they also have that play-in or the playoff match that's not involving that involves the third team that could possibly be relegated, but you're playing a team that is from Bundesliga B. And so, I mean, it's an interesting twist on the relegation battle where you have the play and playoff with a team that's already in the league. Can they hang on? So that's interesting stuff for me, but we'll get into that later on in the show. One of the things that I wanted to get into this morning, and sadly, once again, it's alleged, it's another round of stupidity down here, and it comes to us from, sadly, the high school ranks, and it was an article, and we'll get into Manchester City and ownership and things like that, and gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and things left unsaid. But high school playoffs start today, and you can catch them on the NFHS network. Jess is involved, Jason's involved, Luke Winstel's involved. I think they've got matches to call today, and it is either at McEachern or it is in Macon or is in Duluth on the weekend because of Mercer's women's lacrosse team hosting matches in their conference, having won the regular season title. So I don't know if you saw this, but this is from Ernie Suggs over at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And the Paideia School, the Paideia Pythons, preparing to file a complaint with the Georgia High School Association over how its soccer players were treated last weekend in a state semifinal match against Armurchie. Last Friday, Paideia beat Armurchie 5-0 to advance to the championship match tonight. Parents, players, and school administrators say the win came amid a barrage of racial slurs from players on the other team. And once again, this is from Ernie Suggs over at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Quote, "It is unbelievable and heartbreaking that your child has to experience this during one of the most important times of their career and for it to be tainted by abject racism," said Tia Alvarez-Stith, whose son is a sophomore at Paideia. Quote, "None of us were prepared for that. It's horrible to have your child be demoralized when they're supposed to be celebrating," end quote. Suggs continues, Alvarez-Stith and other parents and said their sons, aside from the rough play, were called the N-word several times. Complaints were met with yellow cards, and one of Paideia's top players was hit with a red card, making him ineligible to play in Tuesday's final, according to parents. Calls to Armurchie were not returned, but a letter from its principal to one parent indicated the school is investigating. In a letter to the Paideia community, athletic director Mike Emery said the team, quote, "did their best to navigate a high-stakes game against players using hostile tactics," end quote. Our boys team, new paragraph. Our boys team was subjected to racial taunts by players on the opposing team, resulting in heated emotional and physical behavior on the field, Emery wrote. Players, parents, and coaches left the game upset and disappointed, which added to the heavy emotions we've been feeling all weekend, quote. In his letter, Emery said he contacted the Georgia High School Association to report the incidents. The school said in a statement Monday to the AJC, it is working through the proper channels to register our complaints with the Georgia High School Association. Paul Bianchi, Paideia's head of school, said the Paideia School is focusing on our students and athletes right now. Efforts to contact the GHSA before they close of business Monday were unsuccessful by the AJC. Sula Carpenter, whose son is on the Paideia team, sent a letter to Armurchie and the chairman of the Floyd County School Board. Quote, "I'm extremely disappointed that in 2023 my son had to experience this level of racism and bigotry. He deserves better," Carpenter wrote, adding that his son scored the team's third goal. Quote, "He left the field feeling defeated. Instead of celebrating his victory during the car ride home, we had to have a long discussion about racism. The behavior of your players reflects poorly on your school, its administration, staff, students, and their families," end quote. Armurchie principal Joseph Pethel wrote back in a letter obtained by the AJC, quote, "I want to start by apologizing for the need of your difficult conversation in place of the excitement of winning and advancing to the state championship game. We take these issues seriously and will continue to investigate and make sure that appropriate actions are taken for all involved. We wish Paideia School the best as you all move forward in the state tournament," end quote. And Paideia plays tonight at 7:30 at 5-Star in Macon against Atlanta International for the Class A D1 boys state title. Natalie Carpenter, quote, another parent at Paideia, "It's really disheartening and disappointing. My kid just wants to play soccer and be a team. It should be the last thing," meaning racism. "It should be the last thing on your mind when you're playing soccer. I don't know how to explain that." So once again, you have the Georgia High School Association. Once again, all this is from the article from Ernie Suggs at the AJC. Paideia advances in a win over Armurchie. When we know more, we'll talk about it more. But I thought it was important to bring this issue once again to the table, where sadly you have young student athletes, apparently and allegedly, because right now it's just it has just been alleged by the parents of Armurchie, as by the parents of Paideia on Armurchie as Armurchie investigates. And when Armurchie comes through with their investigation, then we will come up with the other half of the equation. So we know what Paideia has put forth, parents, school, etc., from the semifinal match where they beat Armurchie. But it's disappointing to continue to have these conversations, especially when it comes to, just in general, when it comes to individuals who are 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. I would hope, I would like to anticipate that this is a learning experience across the board. Then obviously when we know more, we'll say more about it, but it's disappointing that we have to continue to have these discussions about what goes on, sadly, sometimes in the field of play. And we talk about it when adults do it. So I think it's just as appropriate to talk about it when it's being put forth by a group of parents in a match where you're trying to chase after a championship game. Knicks. Yeah, you hope kids today wouldn't perpetuate this awfulness, but that's systemic if it's risen to this level. And yeah, like I said, when Paideia comes, when Armurchie comes through with their part of the investigation, obviously we'll talk about it then too. But to continue to have these things, I think it's incumbent upon us to keep an eye out for it, to keep our ears out for it, and do our best to make sure that it doesn't continue in whatever sphere we're exposed to it. So sadly, once again, it's another incident where we have to be on guard for these kinds of things. But I wanted to bring it to the fore just so we know, when what should be a great week of sport in the state of Georgia, with 16 championship games being played between now and Saturday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So 5 days, 16 matches. And you can pick it up at the NFHS network or on local providers if the schools have local broadcasts on radio. And we've seen those in the past. So just once again, this was just another reminder, sadly, that we have to be vigilant in these cases and continue to work our way through here. So we'll keep an eye on this. But like I said, when we find out more from what's been going on involving the investigation with Armurchie and after Paideia, then we'll do more. But I wanted to bring that out, sadly, this morning. There's something else that we have to keep our eye on and be vigilant about. All right, back to what's going on in the world. And one of the other things that we've been staring at when it comes to who's buying what, going where, when, and how. And it was Manchester United, as we're trying to figure out what's going on with the sale of Manchester United. We'll talk about FIFA and the Women's World Cup, and we'll get into that too, because that's news this morning also. The Ratcliffe bid, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, as since I seem to slur all of that together. From the Telegraph, Sir Jim Ratcliffe's takeover bid for Manchester United reportedly includes a demand that he be allowed immediate control of transfers from the moment a potential deal is agreed. So Sir Jim Ratcliffe, he doesn't want to waste any time. He doesn't want to waste any time at all. It's like, as soon as I put my name on the paper, I want to be in charge of all of the transfers. He ain't wasting no time. So if his bid gets cleared, and apparently his bid is the higher of the two bids, then we'll see what happens. But according to the Daily Telegraph, he wants immediate control of transfers from the moment the deal is agreed to. But remember, his bid would only buy just over 50% of the shares, leaving the Glazers with a minority shareholding of around 20% and still having that bit of influence. But it's interesting that Ratcliffe says, no, I want to be in charge of transfers the second that I sign over and get, control of over 50% of what's going on. And we all know that a lot of folks want nothing to do with the Glazers. Nothing. They want them gone. OWT out. But apparently the Sir Jim Ratcliffe deal, which is only for controlling interest, would still be a part of this element, but he still wants to be in charge. He still wants to be in charge from day one, ground zero, boom, boom, boom. Sheikh Jassim has made a world record bid in excess of £5 billion. And that's for everything. Yeah, he doesn't want any minority owners. He wants the Glazers gone, all that kind of stuff. So this presents an interesting dichotomy. If you are a Manchester United fan, what do you want? Do you want British ownership, majority controlled British ownership, and the Glazers still around, even if Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants to have everything in his control from day one and ground zero from the second he signs that piece of paper? It's like, I'm signing, this is mine, even if it's only 51%, and the Glazers are still involved. I want to be involved in the transfers. Nobody else. I want to be involved from day one, even if I just have controlling interest. Do you accept the in-country bid for controlling interest, keeping the Glazers around, or do you accept the Sheikh's bid, if you're a fan, for 100% interest? The Glazers are gone. It's an interesting test case here. Which one do you want? Are you that mad at the Glazers? Are you that mad that you want them out the door, that you will take the Sheikh Jassim bid of over £5 billion as part of the deal? Or do you want Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos at their 51%, but they keep the Glazers around, even though Sir Jim Ratcliffe says he wants control of all player transfers from absolute zero? Which one do you want? That's an interesting question for Manchester United fans right now. Are you so mad that you have this opportunity for the Glazers to be out, but the local guy, the in-country guy, is like, I want to keep him around. I only want controlling interest. That's the question here. Are you that mad you want him out that badly that you want him gone? Or do you keep it 51% and kind of sit there and say, okay, I'll take my loss here? And it's like, all right, so Ratcliffe is in. I'll kind of take my medicine with the Glazers, but at least they may not have any kind of say or control over players or anything like that. Or Sheikh Jassim, 100%, no Glazers, no nothing. That's the question right now for a lot of fans of Manchester United. What do you want to do? Glazers have been in charge for 20 years. The fans are fed up, but how fed up are you at the end of the day? Other news, Fabrizio Romano says Bayern is not actively working on a deal to sign Ollie Watkins right now, despite reports no negotiations, different options in the list. Villa is planning on offering Ollie Watkins a new deal, improves salary. Nix, this one's for you. Martin O'Neill says he would have been interested in a return to management at the age of 71 if Leicester had turned to him for the end of the year. Brendan Rodgers left earlier this month. Leicester appointed Dean Smith until the end of this season. Remember, O'Neill managed between 95 and 2000, last managed Nottingham Forest in 19. But Martin O'Neill, he's like, yeah, I'd dig that. Spurs look like they could try to tempt James Ward-Prowse away from Southampton. But once again, this is from the four-letter paper, so take that information with your own peril. Started every league game for the Saints. And you look at Southampton, I think Southampton's done. Because they would have to win all four of their matches right now to stay afloat. And the number of folks, and they've got a good chance because they've only got 1 point in their last five matches, and that was the 3-3 draw that helped Arsenal not stay at the top spot of the ladder. But if you're Southampton, when it comes to resources, how many folks, really, when you look at Southampton, would you be chasing after? When you look at the stats on the board, it's like James Ward-Prowse, Che Adams. James Ward-Prowse and Che Adams. You know, I mean, it's not a whole lot of folks that you're looking at when it comes to desired folks from Southampton. But James Ward-Prowse, Che Adams, Kyle Walker-Peters. I mean, literally, I'm looking at this roster and trying to figure out who would be desired from Southampton at the end of the day. I know Gavin Bazunu was getting reps on loan from Manchester City. But, I mean, is it Kyle Walker-Peters? Salisu? Jan Bednarek? I mean, legitimate. I mean, Stuart Armstrong, James Ward-Prowse, El Yunusi, who only has one assist. I mean, so here's the numbers. Literally, I'm staring at James Ward-Prowse and Che Adams, and that's it. 2 clean sheets and a goal this season for Kyle Peters at the back. Salisu, 22 appearances, 1 clean sheet. 3 clean sheets attached to Jan Bednarek. James Ward-Prowse, indispensable, 7 goals, 2 assists. Free kick specialist, amazingly talented. Stuart Armstrong, 2 goals in 28 appearances. El Yunusi has an assist in 30 matches. Maitland-Niles, 20 appearances, nothing. Theo Walcott, maybe? 2-1 in 16 appearances. Che Adams, 5-3 in 27. Adam Armstrong, a goal and assist. Mara has a goal and 2 assists in 21 appearances. I mean, literally, that's what you're staring at for Southampton. Morning, Tom. And yeah, we have been talking about Everton and Leicester, and I was wondering if you and Nix and Ropes and Emilio were commiserating all day yesterday afternoon. And the notes on the Jordan Pickford's water bottle. We got it. And Seamus Coleman, too. Tom, if you have a Seamus Coleman update, I'll take it. But Southampton, literally, it's like, okay, cool, great, you know? Most famous for set piece ability. But literally, I'm sitting here. I mean, he is top 10 in 4 categories. Chances created, crosses attempted, interceptions, and possessions won in the middle third. So literally, the number of folks that Southampton have that could be assets that could be flipped when they go down are small. And James Ward-Prowse and Che Adams to me would be number 1 and number 2. Number 1, number 2. Other paper stuff this morning. Arsenal keeping their eye on a Barca return for Lionel Messi. How are you going to pay for this? How would you pay for this? Any deal could see long-term target Rafinha become available as they look to cut costs. Yeah, you got to cut costs. You still have to cut costs. How are you going to sign Messi when you still have to cut costs? Mikel Arteta has urged Arsenal fans to roll out the red carpet tonight for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang as he returns to the Emirates with Chelsea. Charlie likely to leave Arsenal in the summer, and this is from the 4-letter paper, so take the information at your own peril. It appears any deal will be a permanent one, not keen on another year on loan despite his success at Blackpool. Blackpool is another story in and of itself about whether or not they're going to be able to stay up. Arteta wants to hold talks with Declan Rice. Over a summer move from West Ham as soon as possible. Once again, that comes from the Daily Mirror. Arsenal monitoring Mark Gahey at Crystal Palace as they consider adding depth options back this summer. Arsenal, Brighton, and Liverpool among clubs keeping tabs on Ajax youngster Devin Wrench, who plays predominantly as a right back. We'll go through the juice boxes coming up in just a bit. Chelsea bracing themselves for the departure of a number of upset academy staff this summer if their player fire sale includes homegrown talent like Mount, Loftus-Cheek, and Trevor Chalobah. Risk of losing another member of the academy, striker Malik Motherseal, still unable to agree to a new contract with the club, coming from our friends at The Athletic. Jose Mourinho made it clear he had no interest in a third spell at Chelsea after being approached over a shock return by a club director, according to reports in Italy. That's from the Daily Mirror. I wouldn't want to go back. Frank Lampard has warned Todd Boehly not to make the same mistakes as Roman Abramovich and stick with his next boss. That's from the 3-letter paper. Monaco midfielder Youssouf Fofana has became a pizza delivery boy after being dropped from France's National Academy. Aged 15, has emerged as a summer transfer target for Chelsea. And I'm shaking my head about the idea of Big Sam. Big Sam coming to make sure that you cross the line. 4 matches. You're that frustrated with the Javi Gracia. Leading referees group. Oh, yeah. So this is the other thing I want to talk to Bart about. Klopp and objectivity. A leading referees group has called for a points deduction to be introduced after the Jurgen Klopp outburst. I don't see how that's rational or how you can pull that off. But you got a leading referees group. A leading referees group who wants a points deduction. A points deduction for Liverpool because of the outburst. Notes from practice for Atlanta United as they get ready for Inter Miami. Yakamaki's doing work inside. Luis Arujo is recovering today. So he's in recovery mode today. All right. So, Tom, you have me intrigued. And once again, I'm dealing with a new computer and a hard drive. So we'll see what log in. Let's go. So I'm going to have to do it this way. Okay. So that's not working. Great. Good work. All right. So how can I do this with the new computer? Once again, this is the beauty of live radio. And I know it makes fantastic live radio, by the way. Oh, yeah. I was going to figure out what my passwords are. Fantastic. Great. Great. Awesome. Let's see. So, once again, for those that might have missed it, I'm dealing with a computer, and that was why yesterday was so funky, was a new hard drive has been installed in my laptop. And so I'm trying to reinstall everything and get it all figured out when it comes to anything and everything involving the computer. I'm having to redo it from scratch. So, yay. All right. So you go to the Tony Ballou account. Like I said, I'm following in real time, Tom. So Tony Ballou is Matchroom Boxing. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, got back from a long trip. All I'm thinking about is how this legend is. Seamus Coleman, you epitomize everything that's great about our club. Thinking of where you all are tonight. So no doubt. I mean, that's that's a great picture of Seamus Coleman being taken off. They had to air cast him literally they had to air cast him out the door. And as it turned out, I mean, he's more focused on getting the crowd ginned up and fired up, and he's trying to get all of that squared away. And he's not focused on the fact that he's got a bit of an air cast on his right leg. But like I said, we don't know anything that's attached to any kind of an injury right now. So, so that's what you're looking at right now with Seamus Coleman. But yeah, when there is a heavyweight boxer, hardcore Evertonian. Thank you, Tom. But yeah, fantastic moment for a guy like Seamus Coleman yesterday, who's focused on his club in a moment like that instead of, I mean, probably could have passed out from the pain, but you had all of that. So very, very cool picture that was posted yesterday. Great visuals from the Premier League as well. But yeah, when there's an update, then obviously we'll know. But it's the second catastrophic injury that he's had in 6 years, Tom, if memory serves. And you wonder about the end of the line for somebody like Seamus Coleman, sadly, in a situation like this. But no, obviously, keeping an eye on that. And the relegation fight going on down at the bottom. Like I said, I think Southampton's done. But I think that, I mean, right now you've got 4 teams, and Nick's mentioned his run in at Leicester. Forest run in is brutal. And Everton's got Brighton coming up out of the blocks right now. Chelsea, Bournemouth, 39 points. I think you're both safe. Chelsea's got 2 matches in hand also. Wolves at 37. You've won 3 of your last 5. You've got Villa this weekend. Bournemouth has Chelsea this weekend. But once again, Chelsea plays in the midweek, so we'll see what happens. West Ham's got Manchester City this weekend. They're at 34 points. They're not out of it completely because they're just 4 points clear of the relegation zone, but they've got that match in hand. Leicester, Leeds, Forest, all at 30 points. Leicester, 8 wins. Leeds, 7 wins. Forest, 7 wins. But the goal difference for Forest compared to Leeds is brutal. Minus 32, Leeds at minus 24, Leicester at minus 13. And then Everton right now with 29 points, lost 3 of 5, 2 points in their last 5 matches. They get Brighton this weekend. So those 4 clubs are chasing after 2 spots. I think it's safe to say I don't think West Ham can get dragged into it, but I do think that Southampton is done with 4 matches to go. And the fire sale at Southampton will be an interesting one. Who gets James Ward-Prowse? That for me is going to be one of the things that I'm going to be paying attention to. Who gets James Ward-Prowse in all of this? So the other name that's being mentioned for Leeds is Lee Boyer. Could oversee the squad for the rest of the year. But yeah, so that's what you're staring at when it comes to the relegation fight. Avoiding the 3 and the 4 letter paper as we always do. Mentioned Mother Seal and Chelsea. FIFA, okay, now this is the other stuff I wanted to get into involving the Women's World Cup. FIFA will employ, this is part of it, but not the entire thing. FIFA will employ concussion spotters who will watch matches from a central TV control room at the Women's World Cup this summer to warn team doctors if there are signs of the brain injury being suffered by players. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll get into the other Women's World Cup thing that Gianni Infantino was getting into, and that's another point of contention. We'll get into it in just a second. Guardian. Ryan Reynolds, Rob McElhenney insist their offer to Gareth Bale is serious. The match with Wrexham at Kenan Stadium in Chapel Hill sold out. There's also going to be a match involving Wrexham and Los Dos, LA Galaxy 2. And that one is in in summer. And tickets go on sale. Tickets, by the way, at Dignity Health Sports Park for a match between Wrexham and LA Galaxy 2. Not LA Galaxy, LA Galaxy 2. Anywhere from $45 to $275 for Dignity Health Sports Park and Wrexham. Did you see that J.J. Watt and his wife Kaylee announced their investment into Burnley? That's a pretty solid investment. The video that was released, by the way, if you haven't had the chance to see it, it's on J.J. Watt's Twitter. It's on Burnley's Twitter. Very, very funny. Ryan Reynolds is still trying to figure out how to respond to the comment by Kalia about Ryan Reynolds in the video. But no, congrats to new minority owner JJ and Kalia Watt. Jody Morris has been sacked at Swindon Town head coach after 18 matches in charge. Once again, you're getting close, or you're getting out the door, and it's like, okay, here's what we're doing. Daily Record, Scottish government set to announce a crackdown on pyrotechnic devices after display from both sides before the start of the Scottish Cup semifinal between Celtic and Rangers left the pitch barely visible. If you saw Jarrett's Twitter account, then yes, you indeed saw that. Good luck on trying to enforce it. Celtic reported to have scouted AEK Athens forward Levi Garcia for a second time this weekend, apparently joined by representatives of 14 other clubs. Then former Ibrox favorite Barry Ferguson says Rangers need to make signings in the double figures this summer if they're going to challenge city rival Celtic. Once again, good luck on that. So, yeah, good luck on challenging Celtic there, Rangers. And the Barry Robson, a 2-year deal to hang out with to hang out with Aberdeen. Now let's see. Everton need at least 4, maybe more. I can't see it. Maybe they surprise you. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, who gets – all right, so you want to go down this road, Tom? We'll go down this road. All right. Assets. And I know that your concern about Everton is administration. I know that FFP should be a concern. Building a stadium is a concern. Assets that you think can bring back a return. Assets that you think can bring back a return. And like I said, for any of you, Knicks, I would ask the same thing. Knicks, what do you think? What Leicester assets do you think can get a return for you? Top and the family are going to need all the help they can get. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Jordan Pickford. What other assets do you think that, Tom, you have that can help stem the bottom line if you were to get relegated? So that's your question for the morning. Since we got another 20 minutes, so think about it for the next 20 minutes. When it comes to your assets that are available. Okay, Women's World Cup. I wanted to get into this. Johnny Infantino, and stop me if you've heard this before. This is from Sean Engel over at The Guardian. Johnny Infantino has warned that a TV blackout of the summer's Women's World Cup is on the cards in Europe unless broadcasters improve on their, quote, unacceptable, end quote, offers for the rights. Speaking at a World Trade Organization meeting in Geneva, Infantino said the bids from the big 5 countries, Britain, Spain, Italy, Germany, France, were so low compared with the men's tournament that they amounted to a slap in the face of the players and all women worldwide. Engel says, good news for British fans, FIFA sources are privately conceding that a UK TV deal is not a million miles away, and that Infantino's fires directed more at the other major European nations. Understood that BBC and ITV have bid about £9 million to share the tournament, which starts July 20th. Less than 3 months away. Earlier, Infantino had posted a lengthy attack on broadcasters on Instagram. Who knew that Johnny Infantino was on Instagram? In which he said that they'd offered only $1 to $10 million for the rights for the Women's World Cup, compared with $100 to $200 million for the men's tournament. Italy's offer is said to be particularly low. Quote, to be very clear, it is our moral and legal obligation not to undersell the FIFA Women's World Cup, according to Infantino. Therefore, should the offers continue not to be fair, we will be forced not to broadcast the FIFA Women's World Cup into the Big Five European countries, end quote. Due to the time zone difference, Women's World Cup matches will be held outside primetime viewing hours for European markets, but Infantino said that was no excuse, given that many games would kick off at 9 or 10 a.m. in Europe. Quote, the viewing figures of the FIFA Women's World Cup are 50 to 60% of the Men's World Cup, which in turn are the highest of any event. Yet the broadcasters offer in the Big Five European countries for the FIFA Women's World Cup are 20 to 100. And then he put an exclamation point in parentheses. 20 to 100 times lower than for the Men's FIFA World Cup. And that's where you get the slap in the face comment, indeed, for all women worldwide. And then Engel says more than 1 billion viewers tuned into the 2019 Women's World Cup in France across all platforms. France! According to FIFA figures, a BBC spokesperson said, we don't comment on sports rights negotiations. ITV and Channel 4 have also been approached for comments. So, Johnny Infantino's mad. Mad he's not getting enough money for the broadcast blackout, the broadcast of the Women's World Cup. So there's that. You got that to look forward to. So I wonder what it's going to look like. Quentin Westberg, by the way, training for Atlanta United this morning. Once again, Doug Robertson at the AJC up at the training ground. Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground. So he's given the updates on who's going on early in the week. So, and then there was a subsequent article, the Sydney Morning Herald, from Vince Rugari. And in Rugari's piece, he continued and he mentions the WTO and all of this. And so I'm trying to find former Matilda Moya Dodd as a part of what we're talking about here with the Women's World Cup rights. In an interview with Vince Rugari over at the Sydney Morning Herald, former Matilda Moya Dodd alleges the global governing body is part of the problem. Dodd said Infantino had other options instead of condemning broadcasters or not paying enough, even suggested a way FIFA could lead by example by taking a closer look at all previous contracts. Dodd is an ex-FIFA and AFC executive, by the way. Dodd said the broadcast industry had historically overvalued the rights to men's World Cups and undervalued the women's because FIFA had sold them both together as a bundle, but attributed all the money to the men's rights. Now, Dodd, quoting by Rugari, now that FIFA has decided to sell the rights separately, it's no surprise that the buyers don't want to pay the same big numbers twice. Effectively, this is from Dodd, the industry was trained to pay big money for the men's World Cup and to treat the women's equivalent as worthless. At the same time, the women were told they didn't deserve prize money or equal pay because they didn't bring the revenues. It's actually quite outrageous for FIFA to now say that all women's revenues will go straight into women's football overlooks the fact that the value of the women's rights have until now been used to inflate the value of men's football. Rather than scold the broadcasters, Dodd continued. She says, I'd like to see FIFA help shift these misconceptions by reviewing all of its bundled deals, broadcast, sponsorship, the lot, and attributing a fair proportion to the women's game. If, in fact, the Women's World Cup gets 50 to 60% of the viewers of the men's, as FIFA says, then that should amount to a sum in the billions. Rebecca Soden, a former New Zealand international who founded sports sponsorship and marketing agency Team Heroin, also said that there were better ways for FIFA to approach the situation. Quote, not broadcasting the games in key European markets would be short-sighted and a massive blow to the wider women's football ecosystem, with fans and sponsors being the biggest losers, she said. Quote, instead, FIFA should be working to better educate and demonstrate the value of women's football each and every year, as we see in the USA around women's basketball and other sports, rather than popping out of the woodwork every 4 years when it's time for media negotiations. Of course, broadcasters in Europe have every right to be wary about off-peak broadcast time zones. FIFA and media partners should work together to ensure interest will be there and can be monetized by broadcasters in a way that works for all parties. So that's from Vince Regari over at the Sydney Morning Herald. So Regari went and asked a former FIFA member and a marketing individual about these kinds of things. So it's an interesting situation where you end up with off-peak hours, but you want on-peak money, and so it will be an interesting layout to see what happens going forward involving the Women's World Cup rights, especially in Europe. But we all know that Big FOX is going to be broadcasting it wall to wall here in the States, and as a part of their rights deal in the overall, they picked up 2023. If 2027 ends up in the United States as well, that's going to be another adventure when it comes to pricing out those rights and what it's going to look like for probably Big FOX as they want to chase after it as well. So there's a lot of stuff that could play when it comes to media rights in the Women's World Cup. So keep an eye on your friends in Europe when it comes to the Women's World Cup. Interesting points brought up by the Sydney Morning Herald and Vince Regari this morning. Knicks, who's marketable for Leicester? Madison, Tielemans, Barnes. Madison, they already said, I believe, that they were not going to renew his contract, or that he was going to be leaving in the offseason regardless of if they stayed up or not. Maybe Iheanacho too. Yeah, how's the manager search going? Right, Tom. Knicks will be on the touchline in Fort Lauderdale, Garth tells him. Keep it on the download. Okay, you got ideas. Good work. And remember, Abby's going, by the way, for those of you going down, maybe spend the extra day and catch a later flight for Atlanta United 2 and Inter Miami FC 2. We'll have that game on the network as well later in the evening on Sunday. But, yeah, we'll have the game on the network as well. I'll be on the call for that. Jason will be on the call for the beginning of season in the NPSL. So I think he's at Carrollton for Georgia Storm. So Georgia Storm, the NPSL season coming up just around the corner. So just when you thought that things were slowing down, they're not. They're not. It does not slow down. More Manchester City stuff from Ben Jacobs. Glazers relaying their feedback on final offers this week. Nothing significant took place over the weekend. Sir Jim Ratcliffe offer was higher, believed to be pushing $6.5 billion and flexible. Wants control, prepared to achieve that in a variety of structures. Ineos has basically been built, and this is Ben's review of this. Ineos has basically been built on acquiring companies and see their experience in mergers and acquisitions as helpful. Ratcliffe has also earmarked Paul Mitchell as a part of the project, previously been considered for Nice. Sheikh Jassim has not given up. Still huge confusion over 9-2 Foundation's offer and whether the pledged investment is part of or on top of the circa $5 billion offer. Insiders continue to question the 9-2 Foundation's bid. Qatar's side reiterate the offer is competitive. 9-2 Foundation will await feedback first, but sources indicate they haven't ruled out going direct to the Glazers to try to strike a deal, which would mean two things. Removing intermediaries and either meeting the Glazers via rain or even bypassing them. It's always been indicated that any direct or final negotiations would take place after preferred bidder is named, but the 9-2 Foundation sources are not ruling out direct engagement sooner. Another key point is this shouldn't only be seen as a straight race between Ratcliffe and Sheikh Jassim. April 28th deadline was to establish whether a new full or controlling owner was likely, and there's still a real chance a preferred bidder is named from the two groups. But Carlisle, which is seen as a viable option, Aries, 6th Street, and Elliott all remain in the process. Didn't have an April 28th deadline, but can't be discounted. All options remain on the table, which again is to be expected and help drive competitive tension. This week is key, according to Jacobs. A preferred bidder could be well named in early May, or we may see groups be encouraged to first amend offers. The feeling is Sheikh Jassim must go higher to stand a realistic chance. Lots of tactics and games going on. Now on to the Glazers to show their hand. Go. Great. Great for the Glazers to show their hand. Okay, good work. Let's see. According to Fabrizio Romano, Jorge Mendes just landed in Barcelona here to speak to Ansu Fati's family. So we'll see what's going to happen with Ansu Fati. Guardiola is asked about Declan Rice. He's an exceptional player. Price tag's still not clear. It's up to West Ham. We mentioned Victor Orta. We mentioned Big Sam. Nothing officially official where Big Sam is concerned yet, but that seems to be the leader in the clubhouse for the 4 games of survival that are attached when it comes to Leeds. Wow. Nix, you are correct. It is going to be crazy this weekend in South Florida. Cinco de Mayo, an F1 race, but primarily we're you got Atlanta United, Inter Miami, and you got the 2s in Inter Miami FC 2. That's a priority. I mean, the Cinco de Mayo thing, I've heard of it. Cinco de Mayo on a Friday. Cinco de Mayo on a Friday, people. All I'm going to say, and I'm probably going to reiterate it all week long, is be careful. Be careful. Amateur hour all weekend long. Be careful. Cinco de Mayo on a Friday. Be very, very careful. That is my only request. Be careful, careful, careful when it comes to these kinds of things. Like I said, especially when you've got amateur hour on a Friday. Amateur hour on a Friday. That's what you're staring at. Be very, very careful with those kinds of things. No actual injury update. Thank you, Tom. No actual injury update. However, Coleman's contract is up at the end of the year. Likely played his last match for Everton regardless. So, yeah. But, I mean, that was a great photo. It was a great moment yesterday, too. And we talked about other teams and relegation and those kinds of fights. Let's see. Where was the other one? It was a okay, yeah. The other one, the other relegation fight, and that I wanted to get into before we go this morning. Article from Sid Lowe over at The Guardian in La Liga. Jose Bardalas was brought in to help Getafe save themselves from relegation. I mean, the bottom in Germany is a mess. Bern knows it. A lot of big names there. Same in La Liga in Spain. Bardalas says, I couldn't sit at home with my arms crossed. The coach who took Getafe to Primera in the first place, is now returned on a rescue mission to keep them there. 27 hours in the job, losing 1-0 to Espanyol, 3rd consecutive defeat, 6th without winning, dropping them deeper into the relegation zone. Lowe says it's possibly the best battle La Liga has seen at the bottom, although it's probably not the word you want to use. Getafe's survival last year, 3 home wins against Valencia, Girona, Sevilla. 2 points from the next 15 follow. It was secured against Bilbao, and now they're back in it They're back in it this year. Getafe beaten 3-1 by Mallorca a week ago. Quique Sanchez Flores, remember that name? Said his team faced a choice, and this is the reason that I brought this article up. The team faced a choice between good or ish, and we chose ish. 3 days later, when they were beaten by Almeria, Almeria's first away win all season long, goalkeeper David Soria insisted that they lacked the balls, blood, and mentality they needed to fight against their fate. Quote, this is the food on our family's plates at stake, and it seemed like some people aren't that bothered. Players, he warned, were overwhelmed by it all, the smallest detail doing so much damage. His battle cry ended, either we grab onto this or we're going down. Sanchez Flores departs, lamenting that the love he gave was not reciprocated, but all they wanted now was rescuing. Getafe, one of 6 teams in the relegation battle. They could think of no one quite like Bordalas to pull them out, the coach who brought them from the second division to Europe, and for whom winger Porto said football is a fight. Initially, Bordalas turned him down, leaving the sporting director as a coach. But then Bordalas drove his car in, and he was welcomed with pyrotechnics by the fans, rolled out with a deal done at 1 o'clock in the morning. So keep an eye on this one. Once again, I mean, you have La Liga with their relegation fight, the Bundesliga with their relegation fight. And when you have players basically calling out their teammates and your former coach before he was sacked, sitting there saying that you had a choice between good or ish, and you chose ish. Your keeper says you lacked the balls, blood, and mentality needed to fight. That's what you're getting at here with relegation. You're bringing in coaches. You're trying to figure out what you can do. Who's going to be a part of this discussion? Who can we bring in? Stuttgart and Schalke are a part of the relegation fight in the Bundesliga. Hertha is at the bottom of the table, I think. But it is just crazy in all of these big leagues and all of the leagues that we talk about on a weekly basis, all of the big names that are attached to possible relegation this season, not just in England, but in Spain and in Germany. A lot of big names could be falling down a level in their pyramids in their countries. And the fallout, financial, for a lot of big name clubs could be massive, 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 massive as you go forward. So, stuff to keep an eye on here as we go, because we got like a month left in all of these seasons. And you could have a lot of names, a lot of big names going down. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and things left unsaid before we go. If there's anything else that we missed, 90 Minutes says Chelsea moving closer to appointing Mauricio Pochettino. Inter Milan willing to sell Lautaro Martinez, target to Manchester United. Manchester United sends scouts to watch Roma striker Tammy Abraham as they consider alternatives to Harry Kane. However, Villa are confident of agreeing a deal on Abraham from Roma, despite interest from others. We mentioned Ollie Watkins. The agent of Ansu Fati, we mentioned Ansu Fati. The agent says that he's confident he's going to reassure the Spanish club he'll secure an offer of €70 million for Fati, coming from a Premier League club. Manchester United pushing to sign Eintracht Frankfurt's Kolo Muani as they attempt to beat Bayern Munich. Feyenoord Bar's Ernest Sluit has emerged as a contender alongside Julian Nagelsmann to become Tottenham's next manager. That's from the 4-letter. Not the 4-letter paper, but 4-letter network. Manchester City will not deny Bernardo Silva a move away from the club if he wants to move away in the summer. Roy Hodgson believes that Steve Parish should be worried about clubs being interested in Michael Olise this summer. Arsenal's Valérien Balogun, currently at Reims, will hold talks over his future with his parent club in the summer amid interest from PSG. We mentioned Charlie Patino, the 19-year-old at Blackpool, expected to leave in the summer. So you've got that. Juice boxes today. Actually, let's see what's on TV. Let's do it that way. Soccer on the tube, as we always chase it. What to watch and when before we go. I think like trying to log in passwords all over again. Ligue 1, 3 o'clock, Toulouse and Lens. Triple header in Libertadores at 6, 8, and 10. Liverpool, Argentinos Juniors, Fluminense, River Plate, Sporting Cristal on the strongest. Champions League, LAFC in Philadelphia, no Jose Martinez for Philly. 10 o'clock on FS1. The Pokal, Freiburg and Leipzig at 2:45 on the U. Deportes has a doubleheader in La Liga. Barcelona, Osasuna, Real Sociedad, Real Madrid. BN Español has the Liga and Libertadores that we had on the English language side as well. Unimas is your carrier, as well as Fox Soccer Plus for LAFC in Philadelphia. Semifinals in the Pokal. We mentioned on the Plus Freiburg and Leipzig. Triple header in La Liga. Almeria Elche at 1:20. Barcelona 1:30. Real Sociedad at 4. And Udinese and Napoli is at 2:45 in Serie A. So Arsenal Chelsea 3 o'clock. That one is on USA Network. So keep an eye on that one as well. So we'll have that to talk about tomorrow. We'll get visits from Dylan Butler tomorrow. We'll get visits from Bart Keeler tomorrow, where we'll do reffing down here because we do have a lot of reffing to talk about. And thanks to all of you guys for sticking with me as I'm crossing over all my streams and figuring out technology. So, yes, Copa Libertadores tonight. And if you want to watch all this kind of stuff and you haven't had the access to do it, go to Fanati's, fntz.co/soccer down here. And that, in turn, will help out the show a little bit. It'll help you out a bit. It gives you BN Español, all the BN networks. Like, literally, there's like all 10 BN networks. For the fans, TIC, Gold TV, a lot of different networks. Jason got me hooked. I blame him. So we'll be back at it again tomorrow, back in Atlanta. So thanks to everybody here in Austin for their hospitality. Patti LuPone was fantastic last night as a concert. The boss was pleased. And she got to hear Patti LuPone sing Don't Cry For Me, Argentina, with only a piano to accompany her. And, yes, there was belting of notes, and it was pretty blank and awesome. So, once again, we'll be back in Atlanta tomorrow. And thanks to all of you guys for following along as we go with a lot of news going on, a lot of different places. And we'll be back at it again 9:05 tomorrow. Since it is the end of the show for everybody here at SDH, play it safe, everybody. And for Jason, for Jarrett, and for Nick, I'm just John. Since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this. We'll see you again tomorrow morning, 9:05 Eastern time, because, man, 8:05 Central time, that just really hits you hard. Back at it tomorrow. See you then.